Councilmember Gale Brewer has been representing the Upper West Side and the northern part of Clinton in the council since 2002. And in each election, she's received more than 80% of the vote. You think people like her? She now chairs the council's Committee on Government Operations and is the past chair of the Committee on Technology and Government, now just called the Committee on Technology. She did that from 2002 to 2009. And she comes to us especially today because she is a member of the council's Committee on Transportation. Now, outside of her council work, Ms. Brewer sits on advisory committees of John Jay College and the Macaulay Honors College of CUNY. And prior to her council work, she served on Community Board 7, I almost said the wrong number, and she chaired something that intrigues me. She chaired the New York State chapter of the Women's Political Caucus. And in 2000, the Daily News cited her as one of 50 New Yorkers to watch, and boy were they right. She did her undergraduate work at Columbia and Bennington College in Vermont, and she teaches she's an adjunct at so many CUNY places like Brooklyn and Hunter and Queens, and even here at Baruch. And most importantly to us, Councilmember Brewer has been such a staunch champion and advocate of pedestrian safety for those of us who are blind and visually impaired, has worked over the years, learned over the years, talked with advocates, gotten to know people. She has been a fabulous champion for us. And so, Councilmember Brewer, we also would like to present you with this certificate of commendation from the Computer Center for Visually Impaired People at Baruch College. And thank you so much.
Join Jimmy in thanking Karen very much. And when you look at this audience, Jimmy and I are used to going to many events, but what's exciting about today is thinking about the political constituency that you are now part of, because you helped to pass what we call the APS bill that Jimmy referenced, where all of the 25 per year added to the 28 locations that are now accessible. Local Law 21 is what it was called. It was signed on April 17, 2012. It's a law that we've been working on. I've been working on for 5 years. It wasn't until, I have to be honest, Jimmy Backer became chair of transportation that it really got moving. And I want to thank him, because that's what made the difference in this particular piece of legislation. About it because I represent the West Side, as Karen indicated, and the Jewish Guild is there. And so many people from the Guild kept begging me, as did my friend Ken Stewart, whom you'll hear from and for whom I work. He is a constituent. But I want to say these individuals point out over and over again what you already know, which is great to have 25 new intersections every year. It's great to have 28 that exist. But there are thousands, and people who are visually impaired and blind go everywhere. They go to the shopping, they go to the appointments, they go to work, they visit friends, and sometimes that means the busiest intersections, not just the ones that are near the Guild or Visions or Lighthouse and these great, great institutions. So the purpose of this legislation, which we passed, also includes an advisory council to the wonderful Mayor's Office for the Disabled. And I hope that this group in this room will advocate extremely strongly, not just on APS signals, but all the issues that are so important. One other issue that is something that I care a lot about, and Karen referenced it, is the issue of technology. She and I have been to the Staten Island terminal, for instance, for the ferry, trying to figure out how that information can be more accessible. The fact of the matter is, you set the standard so many times, as you heard earlier in the speech, for the quality of technology. We heard a reference earlier to the site that the city has, but you should be, and we will work with you to advocate that all websites that have any kind of information are absolutely accessible to visually blind. disabled community is that whatever you do, whether I have a lot of friends and I spend a lot of time working with individuals who are in wheelchairs, whatever you do for yourself, it is so beneficial to the rest of New York. There's no way in which you advocate and get some support that isn't helpful to everybody else. The other issue that we're going to work on is, I find it challenging, any of us find it challenging, when Karen referenced the new bike paths and the plazas and so on, and the curb cuts. The curb cuts are a result of people like Jim Wiseman, who's an attorney working on ADA issues, making sure that there were curb cuts. It didn't just come about because people felt it was a good thing. It was the disabled community that made sure those curb cuts are there. And they're now used for strollers, God knows, FedEx, God knows, Fresh Direct, God knows. Everybody uses those curb cuts now. So again, it's another thanks to the disabled community for a better use of city streets. And that's why I really appreciate your advocacy, is because these kinds of issues are constantly ways in which you improve our city. The strips that are supposed to be at the curb cuts that allow us to know that there's a curb cut there are often broken, they don't exist everywhere, and we're all working to improve those. But where your advocacy comes in, and Karen and I and the Councilmember Baca have all stood, for instance, at 14th Street, because where you have a new plaza or a new bike lane, every single one of those intersections needs to be marked in some way so that you know that to be able to differentiate, so that you know if there's a car or a bicycle or God knows a new electric bike, that's the newest thing around, that is there. So we want to continue that kind of advocacy so that pedestrians and you are safe at all times. I finally want to just talk about the department, the Board of Elections, which you will hear from later. The issue there is that the Governmental Operations Committee, which I chair, has oversight over the Board of Elections. And the Board of Elections gets often a bad rap from a lot of people. We need your advocacy, because I do believe they are trying. We need your advocacy to figure out whether or not the machines that you vote on, other New Yorkers vote on, are done correctly. There is a lot of funding from the federal government, and again, you are the leaders, because those ballot machines that are supposed to be accessible, guess what? They are so helpful to everyone. First of all, they are ways in which sometimes, even the way in which they, first of all, the lines are shorter. Second of all, they have often apparatuses that you can use, but people who can see, you cannot, but people can see the font is bigger than the other ones. There are so many ways, again, that this community is helpful to the rest of New York. So I want to thank you for your advocacy. I beg you to keep working at it. Karen is certainly a voice. Ken is a voice. We need your voices. Please testify. Please speak out. Please let us know what your concerns are. We look forward to working with such an exciting group that makes New York better, not just for you, but for everyone.